Hey everybody, we're back here again. Today we are going to be talking about the American response in World War II. So, or the beginning of World War II, really what got started. Yesterday we had talked about a whole bunch of dictators and these guys that had come out with your Mussolini, your Stalin, your Hitler, Francisco Franco. So what we're going to start talking about today, a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. All right, is the American response when these guys come out and become dictators. Our problem is the fact that we saw this coming since the Treaty of Versailles. So we see all these crazy people coming to power and we're like, this isn't good. We know that these guys are going to eventually be violent. We know these guys are going to eventually cause another huge war. And we know everybody else is going to come running to America for help. We see this 1,000 miles away. So before there's any drama, before anything actually happens, while these guys come to power, America goes ahead and passes a set of laws on ourselves. And they're called the Neutrality Acts. We pass these on ourselves to let the rest of the world know we ain't coming to help you. All right. The Neutrality Acts say, and the wording here is very specific because we're going to talk about this tomorrow in detail. So here's what the wording says. It says America is not allowed to give is the key word. We will not give any country that's at war weapons. So, if you find yourself in a war and you desperately need America to help you out, tough cookies. So we say this when we see these dictators come to power and the rest of Europe is like, why are you, like, it's not a problem. I don't know what your problem is. So, we're like, all right, that's fine. You say that now, but you just wait. And sure enough, we're going to end up being right on that. So our mentality is we're not afraid of spending money, but it's only going to be on national defense. Like, hey, this stuff is being crazy, but make sure everybody's on the same page. We didn't win anything from World War I, didn't benefit us at all. We're staying out of this. We see it, again, coming from a mile away, unlike the people in Europe. So we're letting them know in advance, when it gets crazy, don't come asking America for help. That's a big reason that everything that we talk about today of what starts World War II, America blatantly staying out of it because we're like, told you so. All right. So we're going to talk about today what starts the war in Europe. I know in theory you're supposed to have already gotten all this in world history, but we're going to go through to make sure that you have it. I'm also going to be using this for world history as well. So, war in Europe. Here's what happens. And I'm trying to be fancy here with my iPad so I can draw stuff up here on the screen to give you an idea of how this stuff works out. All right. So, the leader of England at the time was a dude named Neville Chamberlain. All right. So, you have your notes there in front of you. Here is what I want to show you. So this is a map of Europe before World War before World War II. All right, you can see a lot of these other countries over here. Let me mark on it, like Poland, Czechoslovakia. Those are new. Austria and Hungary got divided up in like two separate countries. So these countries are new since World War I. You can see Germany here. All right. Germany is much smaller than it was in World War I. And over here, I don't have it. It's Russia. All right. You got Russia over here. The reason is Russia and Germany don't like each other. So they tried to make a buffer here with these extra countries like Poland and Czechoslovakia. They tried to make a buffer there with them. All right. So Germany is much smaller. So Poland and Czechoslovakia, this land got taken at the end of World War I from both Russia and Germany. Germany had originally gotten the land from Russia with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. All right, when Russia backed out. Then when Germany lost the war, instead of just giving that land back to Russia, the allies that were left, the big four, decided to just break it up and make these countries in the middle as a buffer so these two countries that hate each other won't go to war. Well, we're going to talk about how that plays out here shortly. All right. So, boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So, it all starts with Hitler. All right. So, Hitler is right here in Germany. All right. So, what Hitler wants to do All right. Is he wants to create a huge army. He puts a lot of people to work. He creates a huge military. He's not supposed to have a military because it goes against the Treaty of Versailles. When he gets a big military, if that happens, the rule is England and France, boom and boom, all right, they're supposed to come over to Germany and stop him. However, they're all in the Great Depression and they can't come stop him. So Germany's just over here creating a huge, massive military. By the time England and France are even aware that they have created a military, what ends up happening is they're unstoppable. Like their military is bigger than anybody else's. So they're like, oh crap. So they just like hope it's not going to be a problem. It is going to be a problem. So what Hitler's logic is. Now, when I say Hitler's logic, that's the asterisk next to it. So what Hitler says, Hitler's main goal is to take over the whole world. Like that's his end all be all goal. However, he can't just come out and be like, let's take over the whole world. He has to say smaller things. First thing he says is, first off, Germany is the superior race of people on earth. And the first thing he wants to do is unite all German-speaking people. Let me explain what that means in his mind. So since this land has been taken, and I say this land like basically Poland, Czechoslovakia, basically anything to the left of that red line right there are German-speaking people. So just because they made a new country after World War I doesn't mean those aren't German-speaking people that are there. He wants to unite all of those people. All right, and therefore make Germany bigger. Therefore, he has more resources and can make his army bigger and then expand. Hitler hates everybody equally. It stands to note that while he says a whole bunch of really horrific things about Jewish people, all right, which he absolutely does, and we're going to talk about the Holocaust, do that tomorrow. While he does say a whole bunch of horrific things about Jewish people, who he really does actually hate, Russia. Absolutely hates Russia. For a multitude of reasons. He actually, going down this rabbit hole, so this is Russia here. All right, that's Russia right there. He actually wants to take over all of Russia, kill all the Russians, take over all their farmland, all right, and then have more food and farmland for Germany and the Third Reich so they can be completely self-contained. This man literally has in his mind, he's going to eventually not only take over Russia, but kill the entire population of Russia. Like that is, if he got to do what he wanted to do, that's what he was going to do. Hates Russia. Russia is a whole nother inferior race. Like the Russians, because everybody's like, oh, he hates the Jewish people as a race. He's the one that classified them as a race. Like that's a religion. He classified them as a race because logic doesn't follow racism. And he puts the Russians, like he ranks all races in order. He puts the Russians down with the Jewish people. Like, even though they're like, aren't they white people too? Again, racism doesn't follow logic. So he puts the Russians at the bottom level. But that's kind of beside the point here. So what Germany is going to do is try to take over land, and he starts this in the 1930s, to gain more power. The first thing he's going to do, he just all of a sudden does it one day and catches everybody off guard. Nobody thinks like anybody's going to be aggressive. Hitler just all of a sudden one day, so I'm just going to outline Germany here, all right? Germany then takes over Austria. He just invades Austria one day. Now, Germany has this new style of warfare, and it's called blitzkrieg, which means lightning war. What happens is typically, and let me see if I can draw this and help you clarify since I can't do all my stuff I normally do in the classroom. So normally when you invade a country, you just come straight across their border, all right? Well, when you come straight across their border like that, let me back that away because I don't want to clutter up too much stuff. When you come straight across their border, the other country knows where you're coming at, and they can just barricade you. They're like battle, secure that area, and then you go one step further, battle, and you secure that area. It can take years and years and years for a dominant country to take over a weaker country that's anywhere close to equal, just like one step above imperialism. However, Germany and Hitler doesn't do that. And so this is like Hitler's idea. It really is. It's an idea called blitzkrieg, which means lightning war. which means he's going to attack the entire country at one time with airplanes, and you're going to start having paratroopers in World War II and tanks, that he can bring his tanks across this way. He can start bombing over here. He can start putting paratroopers over here. When he attacks a country, he can attack the entire country at one time, and there's no effective way of defending it. And these countries that used to would take months, if they're weak, to fall, that they can fall in a matter of hours. And so Blitzkrieg was his way of attacking an entire country at one time and effectively eliminating a country. So Austria, however, he doesn't even really need to use Blitzkrieg. I'll just leave that line here. He comes rolling in with tanks. I mean, he's not actually on a tank. He stays up here in Berlin, about where that red dot is in Germany. When his army rolls into Austria, now everybody's in the middle of the Great Depression now. They cheer. Like, they are met with parades. No shots are fired in Austria. Austria, which is a German-speaking country, is so happy they're getting taken over by Hitler, because Hitler has done a good job of fixing Germany. Their standard of living is higher than Austria's. And actually, when Germany takes over Austria, they actually, like, the people in Austria's standard of living considerably increases. There's no shots fired when he takes over Austria, because Austria is super excited about being taken over by Germany. So now, Germany, let's see what I got here. All right, so Germany, you can just ignore these lines of Austria. Austria is now ignore Hungary, that's a whole different thing. That is now part of Germany, all right? So, England and France absolutely freak out here. They're like, oh my gosh, what in the world is happening? He can't do that because he's not supposed to have an army, all right? So, but Austria was cool with it. So by the time England and France realize what's happening, Austria has already now been owned by Germany and by Hitler, and nobody has a problem with it. So the leader of England at the time is a dude named Neville Chamberlain. Oh man, that was supposed to be an N. Now hold on. Beep, 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 beep. I said boop. All right. We're just going to say Chamber. All right. Neville Chamberlain is the guy that's in charge of England, and he's not supposed to let this happen. So after Germany, all right, takes over Austria, he's going to roll his tanks up on the outside of Czechoslovakia. All right. Like he is getting ready to invade Czechoslovakia. Now, Czechoslovakia is a new country. Czechoslovakia does not have an army. If somebody attacks Czechoslovakia, England has to be the one. England and France has to be the one to come in and defend Czechoslovakia. England is in the middle of the Great Depression, and Neville Chamberlain is like, "Oh my gosh, what is this dude doing?" Like, "Oh my gosh!" But he's like, "Hey, you know what? Fine, Hitler. If you take one step into Czechoslovakia, it's war. It's just go time. It's war." Now Hitler. Very, very smart man. Psychopath. All right. Evil human being. Also very smart. He ain't strong enough yet to deal with England. All right. To fight them head on. So what he does is Neville Chamberlain is just staring at him, seeing if he steps one foot in Czechoslovakia. And if he does, then he's going to declare war on him. So he's sitting here staring at him, and now Neville Chamberlain has never actually talked to Hitler. All right, so he's just watching this on a map like we are here, kind of. And all of a sudden, Neville Chamberlain's phone rings. It's ring, 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 ring. And Neville Chamberlain picks it up. He's like, "Hello?" It's Hitler on the other side. Hitler's like, "Hey, Neville, buddy, pal, how's it going? How's the wife and kids?" And Neville Chamberlain's like, "Why are you calling me?" He's like, "Look, I know that you think I'm getting ready to be crazy. Like, I'm going to get ready to invade this country of Czechoslovakia, and it's all going to get wild and crazy. And it's going to start this big war or something. Look, it's a big misunderstanding. Let's prevent war," which is what everybody really wanted at the time. Let's prevent war. How about you fly out here to me? All right. We're going to meet in a city called Munich. All right. So I put a little dot here. That's about where Munich is, Munich, Germany. Fly out here to Munich and meet with me, and I'm going to explain to you what is happening. So let me put a little, I'll do this in yellow so it doesn't confuse you. He's going to fly from England down to Munich. Neville Chamberlain does. All right. And he meets with Hitler in Munich. All right. I have a picture when I get there of them shaking hands and big smiles with Neville Chamberlain shaking hands with Hitler. And Hitler's like, "Hey, here's the situation. So I promised my people that I would unite the German-speaking people. All right, he's like, and I promised them that I would get them this little piece of Czechoslovakia. They really believe in me, and they're working really hard. We're about, and you're not even going to believe this, we're about to just pay off that entire war reparations that we owe you from the Treaty of Versailles real soon. This is a bold-faced lie, but this is what Hitler's saying. We're about to pay it off real soon. However, the reason my people are working so hard is they believe in me. I've told them they can have this piece of Czechoslovakia. Now, I want to do this in blue to show you. The piece of Czechoslovakia that he wants, all right, it's basically this whole blue area right here, all right? That whole blue area that is a piece of land called the Sudetenland, and it has special significance to the German people. And it's filled with all German-speaking people. All right, a lot of the rest of Czechoslovakia here has Russians that he hates with a passion. All right, so he's like, hey, here's the situation. All I really want to do is just take over this little piece of land called the Sudetenland. That's all I want. If you will let me take that over, the people there in the Sudetenland want me to take them over just like Austria did anyway. My people will realize that I can keep a promise while simultaneously being able to get more money to be able to pay you back those war reparations. So if you just let me take over, not only does this completely avoid a war, it's the last thing I'll ever ask for, plus the added bonus that you guys are going to basically get your war reparations and you are going to get out of the Great Depression. Now, Neville Chamberlain's like, so I got all my money? And Hitler's like, absolutely. And Neville's like, and you're never going to ask for anything else. And Hitler's like, Scout's honor, because Hitler will say whatever he needs to. So Neville Chamberlain's like, all right, you got yourself a deal. This is called the Munich Agreement. This is appeasement. Let me find my yellow back here again. So Neville travels back to England, all right, in an airplane. He gets off his airplane, and everybody's like, hey, did you go talk to that Hitler guy? Like you getting him to stop stuff? And Neville Chamberlain's like, hey, guys, listen, I just talked to him. He's actually a pretty good guy. Like, no, so what's going to happen is we're going to let him take the Sudetenland. And England's like, what? You're just going to let him take it? It's like, look, he's a good guy. He's got a good plan here. We're going to get our money. And he promised me like nothing. He would never take anything ever again. Look, he's a good guy. Now, what this is called appeasement, when you just give in to a bully. So if you just give in to somebody's demands, like a big bully's demands, then what ends up happening is they just ask for it again. All right, that they just ask for more in the future. So this, we're going to learn real quickly here, is not an effective way of trying to stop Hitler by giving him what he wants, because I feel bad for old Neville. All right, so here's what's happening. As Neville, and I'm using red again, as Neville is back here in England, all right, as he's back here in England, he's literally telling people on the airplane, me and Hitler have come to an agreement that we'll have peace between our nations. As he is doing that, Hitler has invaded not only the Sudetenland, but all of Czechoslovakia. He has completely taken over Czechoslovakia, all right, and he takes it over in a matter of hours. This is clearly the complete opposite of what he told Neville to do. But while he was sitting there talking to him, his army is getting ready to invade. Neville is over here in England talking about how good of a guy and how trustworthy Hitler is, instead of getting his army ready. And Czechoslovakia gets completely taken over by Hitler. This makes Neville Chamberlain look like the world's worst leader. Like, he was like, oh my gosh, I just like bought this dude's lies up one side and down the other. This is right before an election. Neville Chamberlain is really disliked in England about this by letting this like aggressive dude just take stuff over, and he's voted out very quickly. The guy who comes in after Neville Chamberlain, after the Munich Agreement, so the appeasement and the Munich Agreement is all with Neville Chamberlain. Right after that, England elects a guy named Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill adamantly wants to take a firm role against Hitler. So from this point on, Winston Churchill, who's the new leader of England, so let's mark him out. Boop, no more Chamberlain. Now we have Churchill. All right. So Churchill is now the dude in charge here in England. And he's like, I wish he would. I wish he would. Because what's getting ready to happen, and I'm going to show you something before we get here, is Hitler rolls up his army here like he's getting ready to invade Poland. All right. Poland also doesn't have an army. And it looks like if he invades Poland, it's going to cause World War II real quick. All right. So I'm going to show a video clip here. Let's see. How do I... Boop. There we go.
Meanwhile, in defiance of the Treaty of Versailles, Adolf Hitler began to rebuild the German military. He remilitarized the Rhineland with a series of defenses along the border of France. The League of Nations did nothing to respond to Hitler's enormous buildup of military might. Emboldened, on March 12, 1938, Hitler annexed Austria, marching over the border and occupying the country with a full-scale invasion. He then demanded Czechoslovakia surrender control of the Sudetenland. Once part of Germany, the Sudetenland was remapped as a territory in Czechoslovakia after World War I. Hitler believed it was the right of the Germans to take this land back. Britain and France had to respond to Hitler's aggression, but they faced a difficult decision. Rather than risk another war with Germany, they signed the Munich Agreement, forcing Czechoslovakia to relinquish the Sudetenland to the Germans. In return, Hitler promised that this would be his last territorial demand. Britain's Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, felt appeasement of Hitler was a victory and received a hero's welcome when he arrived home.
This morning, I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
See how that works out for him.
Not all Englishmen agreed that appeasement was a victory. Winston Churchill, Chamberlain's eloquent political rival and later Prime Minister, chastised Chamberlain and the French Prime Minister. The policy of appeasement failed.
Alrighty, so this is a picture here of Hitler shaking hands with Neville Chamberlain at the Munich Agreement, where Neville Chamberlain just is going to let him take the Sudetenland, and then Hitler's going to take Czechoslovakia with it. And this is Winston Churchill, who will replace Neville Chamberlain in the upcoming election because everybody's unhappy with Neville Chamberlain's handling of the situation. So, this is, I gotta come back to that.
Germany.
We'll get back to that. All right. So, here's what happens after that. All right. So basically the line here. Beep, 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 beep. Yep. This is what Hitler owns now. All right. He rolls his tanks up like he's getting ready to invade Poland, all right, and take it over. Now, Winston Churchill, all right, who is here in England, sees that. And he's like, oh, no, you don't. If you step one foot into Poland, it's go time, because Poland doesn't have a military, all right? Poland has to be defended by the Allies, England and France. France is useless. So Winston Churchill's like, you mess with Poland, it's go time. So Winston Churchill starts jacking up his army. He's like, all right, get ready. And then Winston Churchill's like, wait a minute. Nah, you guys stand down. Hitler's not dumb enough to invade Poland, and even if he did, that might be a good thing. And here's why, all right? Because on the other side of Poland is Russia, all right? Russia, so Poland, half of Poland, all right, but since it was taken from both countries after World War I, half of Poland is filled with Russians, the other half is filled with Germans. If Hitler takes over Poland, all right, if he takes over Poland here, all right, if he takes Poland over, what ends up happening, two things. Number one, guess who is now inside this magical Third Reich, this like magical country he's trying to make? Russians, which Hitler absolutely hates. So there's no way he would take over Poland because there's so many Russians in Poland. Secondly, guess who would have a problem with that is going to be Russia. If he invades Poland, Russia will come absolutely ballistic over here and try to fight him because they know all the Russian people are going to be under German control and it won't be good. So Stalin, all right, he is like, no, you don't. So Stalin sees Hitler's getting ready to invade Poland, and he lines his whole army up here on the other side of Poland. It's like, you take one foot in there, and it's go time. Winston Churchill's like, over here in England, Winston Churchill's like, ooh, yes, let's do this. Like, Winston Churchill's like, this is great. If these two psychopaths just start murdering each other, that is great. Unless you're Poland and you realize that England, who's supposed to be protecting you, is just like leaving you to the wolves. Poland's like, thanks a lot, guys. So, because Germany and Russia have hated each other forever. All right. So Winston Churchill's like, let's see how this plays out. Yes. So this is next level Hitler stuff that's getting ready to happen. So Russia's bowing up here against Germany if they invade Poland. Hitler clearly looks like he's getting ready to invade Poland. And Stalin's like, take one step. And then Stalin's phone rings. Ring. Stalin picks it up. He's like, hello? It's Hitler on the other line. He's like, Stalin, how's it going? How's the wife and kids and mass killing going? And Stalin's like, I hate you. And Hitler's like, I know, man. Look, we need to talk. And Stalin's like, but I hate you. And he's like, look, I realize our countries have thousands of years of hatred between each other, but we need to have a talk. Why don't you fly out here to Germany, to Munich, and we'll talk about it? And Stalin's like, now keep in mind, Stalin's super paranoid. He's like, no, you just want me out there so you can assassinate me. I hate you. Hitler's like, okay, obviously I didn't think that one through. Yeah, you're no way you're coming out here. How about I come out there and meet you? And Stalin's like, no, I hate you. If you come out here, you're just going to try to use that as an excuse to bring a whole bunch of planes over and attack me. And Hitler's like, dude, I want to come over by myself. Me and a pilot and a bodyguard, we're going to show up. That's it. If there's 2 planes that show up, shoot us down. If there's more than 3 people on this plane, murder us all. I just want to talk to you. This catches Stalin off guard. He's like, one plane? It's like, one plane, man. That's all. Just let me come over there and talk to you. So he's like, okay. So, like, Stalin is... Keep in mind, Russia and Germany hate each other, and Hitler hates Russians more than anybody else. But he's a good actor, and he's a good liar. So Hitler flies on over to Russia. He lands, and I imagine he gets, like, beat up, like, immediately when he shows up. Like, the people that are, like, going to frisk him and stuff, there's no way Hitler doesn't get beat up. He must have. But... he makes it over there, all right, and he actually meets with Stalin. When he's over here in Russia, now, so Hitler's in Russia, in the country he hates the most of anybody anywhere else, he's pretending like he doesn't, and he's like, hey, Stalin, look, I know that everybody's making it out like me and you need to fight. You know who the real bad guy is? It's England. England's the real bad guy. You know why England's the real bad guy? Is because they're the one that took Poland from us after World War I. We didn't have any say-so in that. All right. So World War I was a bad situation. And then afterwards, while we both lost land, there's a whole bunch of Russians here in Poland, and there's a whole bunch of Germans here in Russian. There's a whole bunch of Germans here in Poland as well. There's also a whole bunch of natural resources. You know who should have Poland? We should. We absolutely should. And Stalin's like, what you mean? All right. And he's like, how about we both invade Poland simultaneously? And Stalin's like, but I hate you. And Hitler's like, look, man, you keep saying that. I know you hate me. That it's fine. But we're going to invade. And then Stalin's like, and then we meet and we murder each other. And Hitler's like, no, what is with you in this murdering thing, man? Like, no, like we meet in the middle and we not kill. All right. Not kill each other in the middle of Poland. And Stalin's like, but I hate you. Hitler's like, dude, we have been over this. I know you hate me. We're not BFFs. We're not coming to each other's birthday parties. We just not murder each other. Meet in the middle, not murder. Stalin's like, not murder? And Hitler's like, exactly, not murder. Meet in the middle, not murder. But no friends. No friends. No, we're not friends. We'll deal with that later. All right? not murder. So Stalin's like, okay. This is mind-blowing because here's what happens. They sign an agreement. It's called the Non-Aggression Pact. Not the Friendship Forever Rainbows Unicorns Pact. The Non-Aggression Pact. The Non-Murdering Each Other Pact. This just says that Germany and Russia, their beef is in the past. They don't have to like each other, but they're just not going to murder each other. Not only that, they're both going to invade Poland. So... I'll use yellow here, even though I'm changing my colors so that it doesn't confuse. Germany is going to invade from this side, and Russia's going to invade from this side right after this. They both invade Poland. Now, when they meet in the middle, they do not murder each other. All right? But there's two things you need to know about them meeting and where they meet at. Because of Blitzkrieg, guess who has the fastest army on Earth? That's Hitler. Stalin doesn't move as fast as Hitler. So when Hitler invades from one side and Stalin comes from the other, guess who takes over most of Poland? And I'm going to do it in blue here, because I only got 3 colors here. In blue, that Poland pretty much gets divided right here. All right. Most of Poland is going to be inside Germany. So if I can go back to red, I'll go back to red here. All right. So go back to red. This is kind of the border of Germany. All right. At this time, most of Poland is going to be inside Germany, which means Germany is going to have a whole bunch of Russians that they don't want, but they got the land and natural resources that they do. And when we talk about concentration camps, this is where the first concentration camps are going to exist. What color I got here? We'll do yellow here. Is actually in Poland, because the first people that get sent to these death camps, which are straight up death camps, are the Russians that get stuck in Poland. All right. So the Hitler has now made a pact with his arch enemy Stalin to not murder each other. Here's the entire reason Hitler does this. Remember, Hitler's step 53 of his master plan is to completely take over Russia and murder everybody in Russia. But Russia is powerful, all right? He can't do that until he takes out everybody else here in Europe, all right? So the Non-Aggression Pact completely just puts Russia out here to be oblivious to Hitler taking over stuff. Stalin genuinely believes that Hitler will never bother him. Because he genuinely believes Hitler will never bother him, as Hitler's just wrecking shop here in Europe, Stalin's oblivious, all right? What Hitler's really doing is he's getting his strength up and dealing with everybody else before he can go force 10 full-on attack of Russia, because he knows he's going to need complete and total power, all his army. He's going to need full-on focus on Russia. He can't attack Russia and other countries at the same time, even though he's going to break that rule. But at this time, he is basically keeping Russia off to its own, and taking and Stalin fully believes that Hitler will never attack him, and Hitler 100% is planning on killing him and wiping out everybody in Russia. So this is the Non-Aggression Pact. And this is the start official. Like when you look at when did World War II start? Was it when Hitler took over Austria? When he took over Czechoslovakia? Is it when he took over Poland? No. Or yes. It's not after Czechoslovakia. It's when he takes over Poland. All right. When he takes over Poland, when this gets taken over, this is when Neville Chamberlain, all right, is going to declare war on Germany. So Neville Chamberlain here is going to declare war, and they start flying and bombing and stuff like this. At this point, Hitler is extremely powerful, all right, and he's going to start just wrecking shop. So this is Neville Chamberlain, and basically what happens right after Czechoslovakia.
Germany soon took over the rest of Czechoslovakia. In August of 1939, the Nazis and the Soviets signed a Non-Aggression Pact, vowing they would never attack each other. The pact between these two powers shocked the rest of the world. Stalin, though he hated the Nazis, signed to avoid war. But the Non-Aggression Pact also contained a secret agreement, which allowed the Soviet Union territorial control of the eastern half of Poland and the Baltic states in the event of a war. Later, Stalin would learn a bitter lesson. Treaty or not, Hitler could not be trusted.
Who can't trust that face? All right, so you went through that. This is in Russian. It's the Non-Aggression Pact. So again, this is not an alliance, all right? This is a no murdering agreement, all right? So they're not friends, they're not BFFs. It's just that we're not going to murder each other. So Blitzkrieg, as we've talked about, this is Germany's term for lightning war, and they just wreck shop with this. And everybody else on Earth basically has to catch up to this idea that you can attack a country everywhere at once. So here's where we are. All right. So England here. All right. England. All right. And France. All right, so you know who I'm talking about here. England and France, they are going to declare war on Germany. All right, so let me outline where Germany's borders pretty much is right now. This is what Germany has. Germany then methodically starts taking over like Denmark here. They take over Norway. They leave Sweden alone. Some people asked that. It had no significant importance. They could take it over when they needed to, but they weren't going to waste time. He's basically clockwise taking over the like Lithuania. Like he starts slowly working counterclockwise until he turns around and looks at France. He's been waiting to drop a hammer on France. Like France, they're the ones that took Alsace-Lorraine from them. All right, so Alsace-Lorraine is right here. It's go time. Like he's now strong enough. He's got everybody else held off. He turns around and he's going to focus on France. Now, randomly, because I'm afraid I'm going to forget to mention it, you got Mussolini here. Boop, 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 boop. All right. Mussolini is the biggest cheerleader of Hitler. Hitler looks up to Mussolini. Mussolini came to power before Hitler. Mussolini says he does a whole bunch of stuff, but he's a liar. Hitler actually takes the stuff that Mussolini says he's doing and implements it and has a lot of success with it. Even Hitler doesn't realize Mussolini's a liar. So they are like teammates a lot of times, not being aware that Mussolini's pretty much useless. But Hitler's going to turn around here and he is going to focus here. All right. He is going to focus right here on France. France is going to poop themselves. Now, France, they have spent, they're called the Maginot Line, and it's absolutely insane. They spend a gazillions of dollars, and they have barricaded this border right here. I mean, I can make it as big as possible because they have every type of gun, everything you can possibly imagine pointed towards Germany in case this day ever came. So Germany turns around and they look at them. They immediately take over Alsace-Lorraine. All right, they get that back. And then there's that Maginot Line, and France is like, come on. Now, I don't know if you remember this or not about how Germany defeated France in World War I. How they got into France. They didn't go right across that border. They cut through Belgium. Now, you're looking at this map and you're like, wait a minute. Surely France isn't going to lose in World War II the exact same way they lost in World War I when Germany invaded, which is through Belgium. They are. And in 2 weeks, Germany just cuts right through Belgium, comes around behind. The billions and billions and billions of dollars that they spent for the Maginot Line, the billions of dollars that they spent, poof, completely useless and completely worthless for that to happen. Now, before I just dogpile here on France and make fun of them for this, here's in France's defense, here is why they did not think it was possible, absolutely not possible, for Germany to come in through Belgium in World War II the same way they did in World War I. The reason is because in World War I, the men came marching through on foot. Belgium is all forest, all right? So trying to march through Belgium, you can do that on foot. Now Hitler's army is like 100% tanks. The tanks, all right, France is convinced there's no possible way that Germany can make it through Belgium with their tanks, because France just tried to see what would happen if they tried to take one of their tanks through Belgium. One of the French tanks makes it like 4 or 5 miles into Belgium before it breaks down. It just can't make it. So they're like natural defense with that forest. What they don't realize is some of the French tanks or some of the German tanks are 10 times the size of a French tank. So the German tanks just plowed down the trees and came through. They weren't trying to go around it. They just mauled them over and came whipping through here and just in like 2 weeks completely annihilated France. So now basically here's what Germany owns. Like all of this. They own all of this here now except Except for, here, let me outline this. Except for Switzerland. Nobody messes with Switzerland, ever. Everybody likes Switzerland. Even Hitler doesn't mess with Switzerland. Switzerland's a neutral country. They're friends with everybody. Outside of that, Hitler owns it. So, the last bastion of safety here, all right, I guess I'll keep yellow here, is England. Now, Hitler really wants to take over England, all right, because they're a super powerful country. However, he can't use blitzkrieg with England. Why do you think that is? Well, because it's an island. He can't use his tanks. So, Hitler, and this is the first time World War II hits a new low, I guess, in the viciousness. So, in all these awful wars that have been fought, where it is militaries just wiping out militaries, this is where Hitler publicly, he'd been doing it for a while, publicly is going to target civilians. He is going to, I'll keep using yellow because I have so much red on here now. Hitler is going to fly over nonstop, all right, in airplanes from France over into England and bomb the living bejesus. He flies over and bombs London. Like, he targets schools and hospitals and preschools and like just horrific things. People are freaking out. They're like, what is he doing? He's trying to break the will of England to fight. He's like, hey, the only way to get me to stop, surrender. Because he can't invade, because he can't bring his tanks across. If he tries to put anybody on boats, the English Navy is going to destroy him. So he flies over and bombs the living snot out of England off their civilian targets, and like 24 hours a day, as much as possible, trying to absolutely wipe them out. So England, they are holding on for dear life. Russia's oblivious to this. Guess who England is begging for help from? America. Like, America, come help us, come help us. Oh, please, 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 come help us. Guess what America says? Nah. Told y'all this is going to happen. Nah, y'all deal with it. Y'all just going to be the land of Hitler now. No. So America, we're completely staying out of it. We see it happening. We see our friends getting wiped out, and we're like, told you. Bet them 14 points Wilson had back in 1918, bet they sound a whole lot better now, don't they? It's absolutely wrecking shop. This is called the Battle of Britain. England's just holding on. Like, they can't really defeat England, or they can't defeat Germany. They just have to hold on as long as possible. They start even requesting any pilots, because the Royal Air Force is what is trying to defend London and defend England, that they are asking for pilots around the world. So if you're an American pilot at the time and wanted to go fight in World War II before anybody else, you can come over to England. They give you a plane, go up and shoot at them. Like, England was trying anything to survive here at the Battle of Britain, begging for America to help, and America's like, nah. And this is World War II is just raging, and it looks like Hitler is completely unstoppable at this point. All right, so this is a picture of Charles de Gaulle. He's like the French dude you have to know, because we're eventually going to be allies with France. So we're like, hey, who's a guy that is famous in World War II from France? Charles de Gaulle. The reason he's famous is after the 2 weeks and he has to flee France, he goes to England and heroically keeps a radio station going in French that is projected all through. So Germany owns France, but obviously it's still filled with French people. So there's a radio frequency run by Charles de Gaulle, which basically encourages the French to constantly resist the German invasion from the safety of England, that he says that. And this is a picture, basically like a poster that England would put in America that would encourage people to come on over to England and try to fight in World War II early on. Like come on over. You want to fight? Come on. Come join the Royal something Air Force. So this would come out. All right. So we are done today. There's a video clip I have right here. It's like 3 minutes, I believe. So if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. I don't want to waste your time today, but it is a pretty good video on trying to encourage Americans to get involved in England during the Battle of Britain. Nope, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Spoiler alert. No, does it not work? Oh, there we go. All right, guys. You have a good rest of the day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.